Hey everybody, this is Tom. I've got some really exciting news for you today. I launched the Small Scale Life Patreon page. Yes, we're on Patreon now. So if you like Small Scale Life and want to get more Small Scale Life, check out our page and subscribe. It's at patreon.com/smallscalelife. Well, cool. This is really nice that you're here and we're not talking. Well, we are talking driving, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a little different capacity. So, yeah. So what I was, there's a lot of people that I talk to that have ideas and then they just kind of get stuck. They don't know how to implement, and they just, like my parents. My dad had ideas to retire from the freight business for years, and it was just always someday maybe we're going to do this, and then it just never happened. So, hopefully this will inspire some people to try, which is
Awesome.
yeah. And you tried and you did, and now let's talk about it, right?
Thumbs up.
Okay, cool. So I sent over a list of questions. Maybe you had a chance to look at those a little bit. If not, no worries. It's just this is just an open forum conversation about the school and you and what and why.
Okay.
Cool.
Right on.
All right, cool. Well, welcome to the podcast. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you?
Hi, my name is Kris Geissler, and I own Northfield Area School of Driving, which is a little driving school in Dundas, Minnesota.
Yeah. And when did you start the school?
So the school opened in August 30th of 2019.
Wow. We just had a year anniversary then.
2 years, just 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Oh, it must have been 18. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
18?
So it's been just over 2 years that I've been open.
Yeah, very cool. Well, what was your inspiration? Why did you start the driving school to begin with?
I was thinking about this after you read the questions, and it comes down to my daughter was having trouble in school.
Ah, okay.
That's the crux of it. The whole change agent started because my daughter really struggled in 6th grade.
Okay.
Now, kids have trouble in middle school. That's normal, but she had more trouble.
Mm.
So we decided to place her in a charter school in Northfield. In order to make that happen, because I'm a single mom, I would have to drive her. So I changed jobs. I was a high school special ed teacher in Montgomery.
Okay.
And so I changed jobs. I took a job as a special ed teacher in Northfield so that I could drive her to school every day and she could have that experience that she needed as a 7th grader then. And so that was my change agent. It got me out of where I was to a new location. And so thinking back, that's the change.
Right. No, that's cool. And no, you were a teacher in the New Prague School District. Montgomery's part of that district, I think, correct? And you were doing driver's ed there.
Yep. I worked as a teacher at Montgomery, which is 7 miles out of New Prague. I lived in New Prague, and so I taught driver's ed in New Prague. It's just very convenient for me.
Right, right. What inspired you, even going back further, what inspired you to become a teacher to begin with? Why teaching?
Teaching is sort of a second career for me. I worked in the state system for 13 years. I was a manager in the state system. I worked as a recreation therapist and then a supervisor for that down in St. Peter. So I was in the security hospital the last 7 years of my career there. So, and then I became interested in why they ended up there, right?
Sure.
These are people that are mentally ill and dangerous. And a lot of the people I ran into that ended up there had trouble in school, right?
Okay.
It all started there.
Sure.
And so I got really interested in preventing that, sort of how could I prevent that from happening? It's not a nice place. St. Peter's is not a nice place to be. And so I went back to school and got a degree in EBD, which is emotional behavior disorders, and learning disabilities.
Oh, wow.
I really wanted to make a change in how people were successful in school that hopefully could carry on to their lives. When you work in EBD, you run into a lot of kids with mental illness that struggle in school. So that's where that sort of teacher thing came about.
Sure, sure. No, that's interesting. And having been a former manager myself, it's like the job's great except for the people sometimes. So I can imagine that's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress.
Exactly. But that management
Mm-hmm.
skills that I learned through the state system really helped me in my business.
Sure,
So I
absolutely.
knew how to like do a business plan. I knew how to develop strategies, how to have goals and how to attain them. I'm the only employee, so it's not like I had to, get people going. I had to get myself going. And so that management experience has helped me in being successful in the business.
Right, right. And that can be the hardest person to get motivated sometimes, right?
Yes, you're right. It's just me. Yeah.
I know, I know. Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a 5, 6 month hiatus from doing this, and it's kind of like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do, well, oh, come on. I'd rather watch some TV or something, right? You got to self motivate.
Yeah, I just saw, this reminds me, I
Yeah.
just saw that Dexter's coming back. Were you a
I
big,
I saw that too, and I just said that to Ryan. My boys really got into it. I didn't really watch it that much, but I did see they're
okay.
going to try to reboot that. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
saw parts of it. I saw like first season or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah, that was my COVID watching. I
okay.
watched all of it during when I was home for COVID. So I'm excited that it's coming up again.
Yeah, my son Ryan. I mean, I won't do any spoilers in case nobody's watched it, but it's been out for a while. But he said, yeah, the ending was not so good, but that's
Hmm.
good. Maybe they'll try to fix that a little bit
Yeah.
with the reboot. But yeah, and I think we met in New Prague doing the driver's ed down there, and then you said, oh yeah, I'm thinking about branching off and doing my own thing, and I think that was after class or something, and it's been just from my experience, and I've teach at a lot of different schools, just these railroad presentations. The students in your school are very engaged and they participate, and it's one of my favorite classes to go to. And I think that I don't know what you're doing down there to motivate them, but mostly, I go into a class of 60 students. I think where, and they're all kind of like, hmm, I'm half asleep and not really paying attention to this guy, but you get them
Okay.
going. For some reason, you get them going. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I like them. First
Yeah.
of all, I like working with them. And coming from the background of special ed, I do a lot of experiential stuff. So the
Yeah.
kids aren't sitting there and listening to me. I couldn't talk for 3 hours straight, just couldn't. So the kids do a lot of small group assignments. Even in my Google Meets, I have them go off into their own Google Meets in small groups and do some of the assignments. And it gets them more interested in the class. They have to find out the information instead of me telling it to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more engaged that way.
Is that the real difference you see between maybe these bigger community ed groups and then what you do as a school? What differentiates you from those bigger classes, bigger school systems?
Yeah, I can only I take fewer students.
Yeah.
So right now I have 19 students in my class, the one you just came to, Tom,
Mm-hmm.
and that's high for me. That's a lot of students for me.
Yeah.
Usually I just take 16. That's kind of my max. And I like it. I get to know the kids. Yesterday, one of the kids that I had on my Google Meets, I could tell he had a haircut. And so I mentioned it in class. I was like, oh, Travis, you got a haircut. I mean, so because I can get to know them and,
Yeah.
see them a little bit.
Right, and maybe interject some humor. I mean, you have the big
Hmm.
pointer finger, and you're like pointing at
Yeah.
things, and have them draw. I mean, what describe your class for a minute, because like the classroom setting itself, because I would do it, but I want you to do it from your perspective, and then I'll tell you about mine. So tell us about your classroom, the way you got it set up.
My classroom used to be an old Mary Kay building.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so it was pink. And so I had to paint the whole thing pink. And so um, driver's ed is very visual.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I wanted them to be able to use the boards and see things visually. And I thought about putting up whiteboards all the way around, and it was too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up painting the walls in that chalkboard, black chalkboard, and then the front wall is painted with a dry erase. And so the kids have access to the whole room and can draw up their intersections or whatever it is that we're talking about. So they get up. I make them get up. They can't sit there the whole time.
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful, and it's the only classroom like that I've been in, and I've been all over, all over the metro, and usually students are just planted in their seat and they're just like watching you
Hmm.
talk. But when I go into your school and I see all these drawings and notes and intersections and crashes and that kind of stuff. It's really pretty interesting. It's a fun environment, and hence the big pointer finger. But I like using the pointer finger when you're in your classroom. So
yeah, it's nice.
yeah. So helping people, that's great. So you started, and did you have a brick and mortar to begin with, or did you move into that eventually? Did you start in like a church space or something, or a different space? How did you start?
Yeah, so my school year was ending.
Okay.
And I wasn't, the plan was not to go back to the public schools. And I had mentioned to my sister-in-law, I really want to open this school up. My sister-in-law owns a business in Northfield, and so she kind of knows what to do. And so mentioned it casually. I'm really thinking about opening this driving school. She lives in Northfield. She knows that Northfield has challenges with getting kids through driver's ed.
Okay.
They had in the past like a 6-month waiting list just to get in. And so she was frustrated with that as her parents, so were her friends, and she latched onto it. So she found the space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even better.
And so, so she found the space. We met with the landlord, talked about, would this space work? It has to be a certain amount of square feet to meet the standards by the state of Minnesota. It met the standards. We painted it, and that was it.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
So you had space, and then you started. So what was your initial marketing? Word of mouth? Did you have a website right away? What was your marketing strategy?
Word of mouth was my marketing strategy initially. Being on Google Business, being on Google was a huge marketing event for me. Marketing strategy, I don't have to, it's free, you just have to get on Google Business and be Googleable. And that's kind of where most of my business is. I did some initial sort of marketing stuff, like I went on KYMN radio, which is the Northfield station. Not a lot of yield with that, because teenagers don't really listen to KYMN. Right. So that wasn't a big yield. But primarily it's word of mouth. Yeah. Parents are happy with how the class goes. Kids pass their permit tests. And so it's been successful that way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I had one of our good friends. In fact, he's coming over tomorrow night for dinner, but he was a radio host on KYMN at one time. So
wow,
yeah, we've got ties to Northfield, and I was at Carleton for a year. So yeah, it is a nice little community there. So and really the target market, maybe not so much. Well, yeah, who's paying the bill, right? It's the parents, and maybe they're listening to KYMN. But yeah, word of mouth is very powerful. That's for sure. Yeah. Do you collect like testimonials from students or anything that have passed, or from parents?
One of the best decisions I made in opening this business was choosing the website host. Okay, so I chose a guy he lives in New Zealand, and he specializes in driving schools and massage parlors. That's what he does. And that's his niche. So the websites just makes my life easier. Parents can certainly call me, but it's a self-serve operation. They go onto the websites, they pick what class they want to be in, or they pick when they want to drive with me, and it's just really self-serve. Within that system, it also sends out reminders to the parents. They'll get an email like the week before their lesson, the day of their lesson, etc. And when they're finished, the website will send out an email saying, would you like to write a testimonial for the website? So parents or kids, sometimes kids write it on there. They can write their testimonials on the website.
Very cool. Very nice. Yeah, that's smart. And massage parlors and driver's ed. That's a heck of a combination, but we'll go with it.
Yeah, he told me that I don't know. I think I can't remember exactly how he got into the business. Just some friend of his had a driving school or something. I don't remember now.
Sure.
But yeah, really, really great decision on my part. It's just I don't have to do a lot with that side of the business. I just have to teach, and that's it.
That's nice that it just you kind of have this a la carte system, and you pick, okay, I'm going to just do classes, or I'm just going to do just the drive behind the wheel, or I'm going to do all of it, and away you go. So that's nice. So you have a couple different selections for services too. That's good.
I did. And I did when I worked at Northfield's public schools, they hired me to be a driving instructor.
Okay.
So I was on their staff for Northfield Community Ed as a driving instructor, and felt the frustration as an employee about being able to schedule kids. And so I met with them. I met with Community Ed and I said, here's a better way to do it. New Prague has a system such as I do. And I said, here's what New Prague does. Let me show you how it works. And I said, well, this will really help parents. They'll be less frustrated. Your staff will be less frustrated. And their response was, not at this time.
Oh, wow. Well,
so I launched it, and parents are very happy with it. They make
awesome.
their own decision. Then they decide.
Yeah.
And that's how, as a parent, that's how I would want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So what is your future vision? I mean, are you going to add staff? I mean, are you just going to keep it, I've got this level, we're doing awesome, probably improve the process a little bit. What's your vision?
When I opened the business, I said I was going to do it for 5 years. Because my daughter had 5 years left of school in Northfield. And that's still kind of where I am.
Okay.
So I'm, in my second year. This summer, or last spring, I guess, I'd interviewed someone to be on my staff with me. She's a licensed teacher. It would have been super easy to train her. And she's just a nice gal. I knew her from the Northfield Public Schools. But then COVID happened, and I didn't follow through with it because I didn't know how my business would go. So I was really busy over the summer, so I may consider that for next year. I've also had requests to open the business or open a satellite in Faribault.
Oh, wow.
Because I work with so many of the Somali population down there, women, moms usually, learning to drive, which is fantastic. So glad they're learning to drive. So that's definitely kind of on the back burner, someplace I may go in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once upon a time we had talked about even the college students, they're coming in from maybe New York City or, the East Coast or Chicago, and they've never had to learn how to drive because it's all on the L, it's all on the subway system. They're working, living, shopping right downtown. So they're like, oh my gosh, I'm out here in Northfield. I want to actually drive.
Yeah, I've had my share of those. College students, primarily the college students I get are international students, especially this summer. The St. Olaf students sort of got stuck. The international St. Olaf got stuck because they held classes so long that the international students couldn't get back. The borders were shut. And so there was just a ton of international students stuck at St. Olaf, and a lot of them learned to drive this summer.
Wow.
And super interesting to meet these kids and learn about their different countries. So yeah, definitely interesting.
So do you have like an abridged class for them and then do some behind the wheel and then off they go to take a test, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, if they're over 18, they don't have to take the class.
Oh, okay.
So they go get their permits independently, and then I work with them on learning how to drive.
Okay. That's a cool little niche.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. How about mature driving? I know some community eds, I know some programs like AAA, they've started to do the mature driving. Have you considered that at all or tried it at all?
The 55 Alive, is that what you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I kind of looked into 55 Alive. It's a volunteer organization, and it's kind of a time sucker,
Okay.
It's a lot of time to run that class. It would be fun because I'd get to meet these people, but it didn't go any further than that.
Sure.
I do work with some mature drivers, a few people who have had their licenses on hold because they got into a minor crash.
Yep.
And so the police, question their driving competency. So I have worked with a few of those because then they have to go take the road test again.
Right,
so
right. Yeah, and this is a real, yeah. So sorry for stepping on you there. It's a real need. I remember I was in Illinois back in 2012, or maybe it was 8. I don't know, somewhere back in the mid to late aughts, and my son was getting his driver's license or a permit or something, and I was waiting for him to get his test done. And I remember one of the the instructor or the test folks for the DMV came up to an older gentleman and said, let's do your behind the wheel. And And he's like, do we have to go out onto, it's a 2-lane road, Highway 34? And she's like, yeah, we do. We got to drive you out there. And he's like, oh, I'm kind of scared to do that. She's like, well, you got to do this or you can't pass. And so it is a struggle as some of our population is getting older and they've been driving all their lives, and losing that license is that's a real it's a real loss for them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, yeah. So what, as you're thinking about your overall business and where you've been and where you're going, what big challenges did you have? What did you have to overcome?
Health insurance.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard. You don't get health insurance as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a conversation with someone at Deed about this, saying, what can you help with entrepreneurs with health insurance? Because I have children, and I'm a single mom, so I am responsible for the health insurance. So it's a leap of faith for me that I was going to make enough money at this business that I could then afford health insurance. So that was kind of my big barrier. How do I make this leap of faith and ensure that my kids can still go to the dentist, So yeah, that was hard. And I wish that the state of Minnesota indeed would make some kind of allowance for folks who are trying to start a business and are in the same situation that I was in, as a single mom. How do I have health insurance? So definitely that was a barrier for me, and a leap of faith. Am I going to be able to do the things that a mom needs to do?
Sure, absolutely. And that is a real need, I think, as well. And like I have a friend in Wisconsin who started up his own electrical contracting business, but he's still tied to the union somehow, and his wife works at a different job, so he's able to get insurance in different ways, and maybe through his wife's employment. But yeah, for single entrepreneurs, that is a real challenge, and I think it holds people back. And
it definitely is. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if there's church groups that band together and can have insurance packages, it'd be an interesting thing for entrepreneurs. I mean, this sounds like a real niche, real need for somebody to start that kind of thing, or through a program at Deed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really big one. Good point. I have to explore that a little bit more. Huh?
Yeah, you got to dig into that.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for people who are just starting out or thinking about it, just starting to dip their toe into starting a new business? What advice do you have from a year in and moving forward?
Well, initially, my advice would be to tell as many people as you can about your plans, because they keep you accountable.
Yeah.
So I remember I told this woman that I worked with at the public school, about this plan, thinking about it, and she was like super supportive. She thought, oh, it's a great idea. Of course, because she noticed the challenges of getting her kids into driver's ed. So every time I saw her in the hallway, she would say, well, how is your driver's ed going? And so, I tried to avoid her some, but people will keep you accountable, with this idea. If they have supportive people in your life who will help you to keep going with this idea and go forth with it. That's my sort of biggest, I'm glad that I made those contacts and that people were on my side about it. Nobody in my life was saying, you can't do this, Kris. There was nobody that was saying that. They were all saying, there's a need, you have the skills, you just need to go through the process.
Yeah. No, that's really good stuff. And having that accountability, we talk about that for like budgeting or even weight loss, where getting that accountability partner really helps you get through those hard times, and having a big why too. I mean, you're there to help people. That's your calling, is to help people. So you got a big why, you got accountability, and away you go. So yeah, that's great. That's really good. So where can we find you online? Where can we find out more about you and Northfield Area Driving School?
Northfield Area School of Driving. If you Google Northfield Driving, yep. If you Google Northfield Driving, I'll pop up there.
Nice.
Right? Northfield Area School of Driving, and I think one of my niches on the website, it talks about that I'm a special ed teacher, and so parents will come to me because of that, and I love that. I love working with special ed kids, so people with reading, learning disabilities, even behavior disabilities, those are my kids. And so I'm glad when parents choose me and I get to work with those kids in driving.
Well, I can tell you from experience, I really enjoy, one of my favorite classes is coming down and teaching in your classroom. It's so much fun, and the students are so interactive and ask so many questions and try to stump me. It's always good. Oh, I think you almost got me yesterday.
Yeah, we try to stump you. That's our thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a pleasure. I really enjoy talking with you about the school and about you and your background and everything. I appreciate your time, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present and be part of your story. I think it's great.
Thanks, Tom. I liked being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So we wish you well. We wish you luck, and good luck in the future. And I'll be there whenever you need me.
Okay.
As long as I don't get called out of town and over, another state over some crazy thing, or up to War Road.
Yeah.
Is there a picture that you would like us to use for the podcast to put this up?
There's a ton of images that I uploaded online. You can just choose one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. As long as we have your permission to do that, we will make it so.
Yeah. Thanks, cool. Tom. You definitely are my favorite railroad guy.
Oh, hell. All right.
So yeah, it's always interesting. And the kids, I don't think they know that they have so many questions about railroads until you come and talk about it. So yeah. So hopefully none of my kids will be in railroad crashes that I've had.
Yeah, I don't want to investigate any of them. That'd be, it's a tragic situation. And these are really bad crashes when they happen. I mean, just that video from Indiana. Oh my goodness. So, bad news.
That was impactful. We should totally start with that next time too.
Yeah.
I think it got their attention.
Sure did.
Right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than a story. I mean, it's visual, and they're so visual, and driving is a visual thing. I mean, oh, I got a red light in front of me. I have to stop. And here comes a big headlight down that way. Oh, that's a train.
All right. We might got to remember to start that way next time.
Absolutely. That sounds good. So awesome. Well, I appreciate your time.
All right. Well, let me know when it's on. I want to listen to it.
Oh, absolutely. I'll let you know. Absolutely.
Please hit subscribe and hit the little like button.